Good morning, everyone. We will now begin the morning service of the Miroku Association headquarters, asking God and Meishu-sama to protect and bless us as we participate today in the construction of paradise on earth. Please stand for the Amatsu-Norito, followed by the Miroku Prayer. Taka amahara ni kanzumarimasu kamurogi kamuromi no mikoto mochite sumemi oya kamu izanagi no mikoto tsukushi no himuka no tachi hana no odo no ahagi hara ni misogi hara itamo toki ni narimaseru haraido no okami tachi moro moro no magagoto tsumi kegare yo harai tamae kiyome tamae tomao sukoto no yoshio Amatsu kami kunitsu kami yao yorozu no kami tachi tomo ni ame no fuchi koma no mimi furi tatete kikoshi meseto kashikomi mo maosu Miroku o mikami mamori tamae saki hae tamae. Miroku o mikami mamori tamae saki hae tamae. Oshie miyo ya nushi no kami mamori tamae saki hae tamae. Oshie miyo ya nushi no kami mamori tamae saki hae tamae. Kamnagara tamachi haemase. Kamnagara tamachi haemase. Great God of light, creator and giver of all life, in accordance with your divine will, the long age of night draws to an end. Your radiant divine light, shining ever more brilliantly, awakens the dawn of the glorious age of light, a time long awaited by all humanity. We thank you for guiding us to your divine plan and for the privilege of channeling and receiving Johrei. May our spirits and bodies be illuminated and purified as we live your truth given to us by Meishu-sama. Make us pure and effective instruments of your divine light so that we may serve you and all those with whom we come in contact. May paradise on earth be realized with health, peace, and prosperity. a reality in our lives. Great God of light, bless and protect us. Radiate our souls with your divine light, so that we may truly become instruments of your great plan. Please be seated for group Johrei. God, Meishu-sama, bless you. Teaching today is entitled Turning to God from Daily Inspirations, page 81. Now that I'm enveloped in God's great light, I'm no longer disturbed by the turbulent storms that rage in the world around me. We may be surprised to find the very fate that others experienced yesterday, becoming the fate that we ourselves must face today. For such is the way of life. We cannot see the distortion caused by dark forces until it is clearly reflected in God's mirror. For those who lack faith in God, spiritual clouds are removed through suffering. For those who have faith, they are more easily released through God's grace. This grace is God's lifeline to salvation, which God sends to all who are suffering. Some fail to understand it is there, or are not able to grab it and reach salvation due to the weight of the spiritual clouds on their spiritual bodies. However, when they later experience suffering through such things as disease, accidents, or natural disasters, these clouds are lessened. As one's spiritual body becomes lighter, the ability to access this lifeline increases. However, if a person cannot grab onto God's lifeline to salvation, even after hearing a wonderful teaching, then that person's clouds must still be further reduced by some means. Even if you could force someone to grab the lifeline, they would let go or lose their grip. However, if a person receives Johrei, sufficient purification to find and hold onto this lifeline to salvation can be easily and quickly achieved. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this morning service of the Miroku Association headquarters. This morning, I want to share the faith experience of Rebecca Yassi Saraiva Small. She's from Fortaleza, Brazil. Rebecca is 16 years old and she gives service as a youth leader. As a child, she went through some food related purifications, as she had reflux and an allergy to cow's milk and egg proteins. These disturbances greatly impaired her taste buds and the variety of things she could eat. The allergy lasted for a few years but left its after effects. It was very difficult to feed herself properly. She didn't eat certain foods because of their texture, which caused the reflux. As time went by, she began to eat better, but still with limitations. At the same time, she had a lot of skin problems, such as allergies and boils. Sometimes she could not participate in school activities and bathe in the swimming pool, as she ran the risk of the boils getting worse or opening up. Furthermore, she was very shy in communicating with others. She was introduced to our church in 2012 as her mother was experiencing severe depression and a friend came to their home to channel Johrei. Her mother showed great improvement, and in the same year, both received the sacred focal point Ohikari. By regularly receiving and channeling Johrei and giving service, her purifications with boils disappeared, her skin allergies were gradually reduced, and her taste buds were also improving. She was invited to dedicate Thursdays to the closing prayer with a missionary who helped her because she was still a little girl. She had many faith experiences, and that's why she was invited to share them during the services. This practice helped her a lot in relation to her shyness. At school, she has no difficulty in presenting her assignments, being always praised for her resourcefulness and ability to explain things. One of the faith experiences she would like to share with us happened with the onset of COVID 19. Due to the pandemic, she found it difficult to keep up with her studies. Thus, she started to read more teachings. With that, she was able to concentrate more and finish the school year with a good average. Currently, she dedicates during the services, the liturgy of Saturday morning services, as well as for the monthly services. She participates in youth activities, and our basic practices of faith are up to date. Rebecca is very thankful to God, Meishu-sama, and her ancestors for the permission to be a Johrei member and for giving service, aiming at the construction of paradise on earth. That was from Rebecca of Fortaleza, Brazil. And another faith experience I want to share this morning is from Victoriana Fernandez. She's from the Talatona Johrei Center, Luanda, Angola. Excuse me. Victoriana has been a member for 15 years, and she gives service as an assistant missionary. She was introduced to our church by her mother, who is also a Johrei member. The reasons that led her to join our church were her insomnia and financial difficulties. An aunt who lived in her house couldn't sleep. This aunt said she saw people walking on the ceiling, and it shook everyone at home. Victoriana's grandfather, moved by that situation, told them about our church, but she would like to emphasize that he had never had contact with our church. At the Johrei Center, they were welcomed by a missionary who guided them in our basic practices of faith. They began to practice what was suggested, and her aunt, who couldn't sleep for a long time, started to have peaceful nights. Her financial difficulties were also overcome. As an expression of gratitude, they materialized their Ohikari donation and became members to better serve in the divine work. The faith experience that she would like to share with us is related to a lack of gratitude regarding the materialization of her monthly donation. A few months ago, she was the first person to be awarded money from a pyramid scheme, which she would have to return it later on. She thought about donating 10% of the award, but as she thought it would be a small amount, she decided not to donate and instead invest the money in a business. On the first day of her point of sale, local city inspectors came to charge her with 6,000 kwanzas, and a boy she hired to help her had only sold 1,000 kwanzas. When she realized what had happened, she went to the point of sale and the inspectors had seized her merchandise. But the inspectors refused to return her merchandise without her paying a deposit of 5,000 kwanzas, and she didn't have such amount. She begged, saying she didn't have that amount. They asked how much she had in her possession, and she just replied that she had 1,000 kwanzas. They accepted the amount she offered and finally returned her merchandise. She continued with the point of sale, but it was not successful because the boy helper went back to his home. She began to whine and feeling down, and she didn't know how she was going to return the award money she once got. At nightfall, her husband found her crying. She explained what happened, and he gave her the money for her to continue her point of sale. But even so, history repeated itself. The boy helper was still assisting her, but he would not sell as she expected, and she had to raise money to try to sell again the following day. She paused to think and concluded that her point of sale was not working. She decided to leave that business and start another one. She began selling cookies at the door of her house, but even so, it didn't result in anything. Top of this, her husband lost his documents, and as a result, her family began to have financial difficulties to the point of not having anything to eat. She suffered to see her children crying with hunger. A few days later, they received a visit from their minister, with whom she decided to share what was experienced. After listening to her, the minister suggested that whenever she earned money, no matter the amount, she should materialize 10% of it before using it for personal matters. He also asked her to practice detachment. She put the guidance into practice, and as a result, her business has seen a light at the end of the tunnel. She managed to obtain profits that she couldn't before, and due to this result, in addition to cakes she has also been selling, she also started selling sacks of charcoal, which greatly reduced her financial difficulties. One night, she had a dream in which she was told to give service, taking care of a church family. This was a dedication she had never done before. When she woke up, she didn't give it much thought to her dream. However, some other day she dreamed of the same thing again. Someone told her she had to give assistance in other people's homes. At dawn, she decided to go first to the Johrei Center to express her gratitude, and she decided to put into practice what she was told in her dreams. Along the way to the homes she thought about visiting, she practiced on how she should talk to people. Thanks to God, she managed to start giving assistance to two families, which she is still following up on them. They have been receiving Johrei without objection and are now regular visitors of the center. As a result of these dedications, her husband, who was out of work, was blessed to get a job. And as for Victoriana, in addition to her own business, she was also blessed to get a job with flexible hours that allows her to give service more often. This experience allowed her to understand that attachment is the cause of human suffering, because as a result of her own attachment, not only herself, but her family also experienced financial difficulties. She also understood that we must not neglect to comply with the guidance our ministers give to us. Victorian is very thankful to God, Meishu-sama, and her ancestors for the permission she received to be introduced to this wonderful path. Thank you very much. So that was the Victoriana's experience from the Talatoma Johrei Center in Angola. I want to thank you very much for attending this morning service and listening to these faith experiences. I wish you a very blessed day. With this concludes our morning service. Thank you very much.